let's start with intros. We'll start with Alberto there, our friends from San Francisco. Long flight.
Yeah, long flight. Anyway, I'm Alberto Yepez. I'm the co-founder of Forgepoint Capital. We're a venture fund with $1 billion under management. We have about 40, we've done 44 investments in cybersecurity, which 35 are active. So we have probably one of the most active investors in cyber and broadly defined. It's not just the speeds and feeds, but it goes all the way from fraud to privacy to regulations to tokens and stuff like that. But anyway, we'll share perspectives as we go.
Very cool.
Yeah, hi everyone, or those of you in the room. I'm George Ralph. I'm the global MD and CRO of a firm called RFA. We've been around for around 36 years. I've been in the industry for 26 of those, mainly working around information assurance as it was back in the day. It's now cyber, the word we all know well. And I help alternative investment firms essentially prepare for due diligence from investors, and I help investors do due diligence on firms. We're in 13 regions around the world. There's 400 of us, which is a challenging HR for me, managing 400 IT people, but that's essentially why I'm here today. I was a cyber auditor, helping investors do due diligence on funds, essentially.
Hartej, what's your story?
Hi everybody. My name is Hartej Sawhney. I'm the founder and CEO of Zokyo, as well as the co-founder of Toshi. We have been pioneering the intersection of cybersecurity and blockchain Web3 since 2016. We've secured over $350 billion worth of digital assets. We are most known for auditing the code behind cryptocurrencies, behind blockchains. So we're mostly known for ethical hacking, but within the Web3 realm.
So you're you're way behind the scenes.
We're a little bit behind the scenes, yeah. We spent a lot of time teaching the world as to why they should respect cybersecurity in this realm, like helping governments write the laws in their jurisdictions in regards to auditing smart contracts for cryptocurrencies that will be sold in their jurisdictions. So we've done a lot of work in that realm. We design and review token economics. We have a quant division, and we also have a venture capital arm. So we invest in some companies that we see a lot of potential in Web3 cybersecurity mainly.
It sounds like you have 400,000 employees, but how many now?
We're actually a team of 22 on the security side with a presence in 18 countries, so really remote, because we audit smart contracts 24/7. So aggressively remote first,
So COVID wasn't a big deal. You're like, okay, guys, just stay home.
Yeah, well, COVID accelerated being able to hire more talent from all over the world, right. I'd say. It
so
helped.
When you're looking at investments, what's the main thing you're seeing like these Web3s? Like what's really kicking it for you, and how do you figure out if their cybersecurity's up to snuff?
So at the moment, we're really interested in looking at infrastructure deals that are focusing on cybersecurity infrastructure for the future of crypto. As many of you may know that are familiar with the vertical, last year alone there was around just under $3 billion worth of capital stolen or lost in the industry. So security is a massive concern. And so for those reasons, we're looking at, actually at the moment, a lot of tools that are using AI and machine learning to do real-time on-chain monitoring to find security vulnerabilities in data. And we think that is the next step in addition to auditing, and that auditing smart contracts is clearly not enough. It's definitely a crucial part of the space. We matter, but there's more that needs to be done. So that's the landscape that we're really looking at.
So the auditing is kind of like handmade, kind of knitted, and then the AI goes in and checks things all the time, like more of a factory sort of system, or?
AI is accelerating our ability to audit code and to focus on having a few human beings find the real juicy stuff manually. And more, GPT-4 and AI are able to find almost all the commonly found vulnerabilities for us, and so is our own tooling. But the real elephant in the room in crypto still remains that the critical vulnerabilities they're not even vulnerabilities, they're flaws in the logic that have to be found by a human being manually still, even with AI. So at least we have a couple more years before AI makes even more of an impact on auditing. I think the price of audits will go down, but I don't think auditing will be completely replaced by AI for at least a couple of years.
And I guess the key thing, sorry.
Yeah,
Please.
I guess the key thing about what you're doing, what I understand, which is fantastic, by the way, the AI is helping you doing that from a continuous basis.
Yes.
Because part of the challenge we've always had for investors is they've asked us to do something which is a point in time, which means the next day it could be completely broken again.
Yes, that's the future of the AI software monitoring a smart contract on an ongoing basis, because you're right, for us, we do a smart contract audit at one point in time when the code is complete, then the code changes and there's room for vulnerabilities. So it's really a one-time thing. It's not continuously monitoring. So yeah, that's the future. That's where we're headed.
I think I've got someone you should meet
Let's go.
that you might want to invest in.
Okay.
I'll tell him later.
Send me the
connection
deck
so far,
right
guys.
now.
Like, that leads me on to the question for you, George. Like you said, we were talking about the title, and you reminded me it's the economic prosperity. I'm like, oh, economic prosperity from cybersecurity. Usually it's kind of like a limiting thing. You've got to do all these things. Here's the rules. You know, your password should be like 3 hippopotamuses in a tree, because then no one will figure that out or something like that. But you're
change
thinking
it
like
every day.
remote, remote workers. And my question to you is like along the lines of this auditing and AI and continuous improvement. Where are we, say, with remote workers? Because everybody went to, during COVID, remote. I was kind of already there because I was, always traveling around as it was. But, for a lot of folks, it was like, fuck, we got to put the whole trading desk, 400 people got to go home. Instead of just going to, Newark or something, just go to the BCP spot. So we're kind of, where is that now? And like you're kind of seeing the globe, obviously, for all the countries you're active in. And is it as good as it gets, or is it going to have to get better? Because I figure they're AIing the other side. The criminals are AIing stuff too.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. I think I'm going to come back to the economic point. And the point is really, if you've got good security, you're not going to be wasting your money by losing it or having it taken or paying fines.
The fines, yes.
But we've got around 900 firms that we actually look after their technology as well on an ongoing basis, and they could be startup hedge funds all the way up to people like Blackstone, CVC, and different things that we do for them. But we've always focused on keeping our clients as mobile as possible. So actually before COVID and during COVID, it didn't really impact them much. It was more about securing the systems that people were using for firms where, for example, they didn't have a corporate laptop. They've got a PC in the office and then they've got a PC at home which is theirs that they share with their kids or their partners.
Oh, that's fun.
And then all of a sudden they're all there and they've got this tiny little printer and they're printing out legal documents that they shouldn't be printing out outside of the office. And then you've got the regulators saying, well, hang on, you have to be supervising traders in the office. They can't go home. So it was all of these challenges for businesses moving around. But for me, I think it was good in terms of forcing us all to use more collaborative technology. There's huge migrations going on into Azure still. I was speaking to someone yesterday who's got 412 physical servers still in a comms room, which they call the flood room because it always has an inch of water in the bottom of the old safe. Wow. It's Hamburg company, but anyway, probably can't talk too much about that publicly.
No, don't give us any secrets here.
Yeah. But it's kind of forced people to use things like Teams and SharePoint and Office 365 tools. And a lot of these things are great because they come with built-in technology for cyber, good or bad. But the risks that we've seen for people mainly is that they're spinning these cloud platforms up without understanding how to configure them properly. I think it was Capital One had a breach because a guy spun up an Azure server but forgot to do the security configuration. I mean, it's ridiculous when you think about it. But I think for me, it's like I say, make sure your security is good from the start. Think about the people and the data and where that data's going. A lot of breaches we have to deal with is because I had one 2 days ago. The firm sent me an email which came from their law firm because their client's documentation had been breached at the law firm. But the client had never done proper due diligence on where the law firm was storing their data because one day, think about that. So it's about supply chain.
Had they hired you, they would have been in clear sailing, yeah.
I'm not sure who the law firm was. I do know, but I can't say. But they were using Dropbox for storing files for corporate data. I mean, it's not, it's not great.
Yeah.
So it's about understanding supply chain, where your data is. And then the other thing I'd say on this is we've done a lot of behavior analysis in the past to And this is more of the hedge fund side of what we do, which is analysing productivity of staff. So it looks at the CPU and the RAM usage and how hard someone's using Excel, for example, or how hard they're using their Outlook or their browser. So people can't come on in the morning and just say, I'm online, and then walk away and go offline at 5.
Just run a macro and just walk away.
Yeah, basically. Or have one of those nodding dogs that pushes the space bar every 5 minutes.
Hardware solutions, that's good. Yeah.
But up until COVID, slightly relevant, all of that was about making sure the managers knew how hard their staff were working. As soon as COVID hit and they couldn't see them, that became more prevalent, but it flipped quite quickly into ESG and how they were making sure people were having a better work-life balance. But it's the same systems, the same report, just changed the title on the top. And I think when I talk about economic prosperity, I think the productivity value of cybersecurity is probably the most relevant comment. And that's the best example I can think of.
Love it. Did you have a mic at all? Here, I'll give you mine.
I do, yeah.
Oh, you do. Sorry, my cup. Yeah. So for you, Alberto, you have $1 billion in investments there. So what are you seeing as a trend? Is it the old standbys, or is there what's the new thing?
No, we're early stage investors, and the way we ground our investment is try to work with an ecosystem of regulated industries like banks and financial, let's say insurance and hospitals and critical infrastructure, in trying to figure out what are the problems that they're trying to solve where the solutions don't exist. And because the threat vector changes so often, it's not like a Palo Alto, Microsoft, or Google is going to solve the problem. They cannot afford to do that. So there's a very active and ecosystem of innovative companies that actually are coming to market, and they don't necessarily will become listed companies. They will get acquired.
Oh yeah.
Look at Google. In order to become more relevant, they acquired Mandiant, right? And Mandiant already had been a public company. So the dynamics of investing in cybersecurity are very unique because it's dominated by M&A. The threat keeps on changing, so even the current players in the endpoint security, wherever you want, become very much the legacy software, and eventually, because the endpoint evolves to either the cloud or a container, and which cloud? Is a multi-cloud, a hybrid cloud, all of the above, where your data is probably propagated and backed up everywhere. So the problem set is such complexity that you need to develop themes around what will be important areas. For instance, we've been talking almost all day on Web3 and crypto. You know, Coinbase is a customer of many of our portfolio companies, but they even begin to spell what KYC and AML is, right? The reason why they started to do is many of the ransomware was being paid with Bitcoin, right? Or tokens, and therefore, when they couldn't stand the regulatory questionnaires saying, so how do you do? Effectively, you could have gotten a wallet just with binding to an email address that you would have created in Spain or in Turkey, and you're still sitting here in the UK. How do you de-anonymize, and how do you be able to trace that? So there's a lot of attack surface that the bad guys that they've been using AI and automation for a long time is still very vibrant. So how do you raise the defenses? And big companies like big banks can afford to invest a lot of money in cybersecurity, but many of the managers that are sitting today in the audience, they may have one person doing IT, maybe two people, and that is the same person that deals with the physical security aspects, and therefore security is migrating to become managed but delivered as a service, ease of consumption, ease of deployment, and then you have a lot of people that can either come after the fact with the audit or before the code and trying to analyze it, but still, what do you do on a day-to-day basis to be able to do that? So there's a perfect storm going on because the threat vector is as active as ever. You have a shortage of professionals going on. You have regulatory compliance driving the spend in cybersecurity. You also have the pandemic that accelerated the digital transformation of business and government, and ultimately you also have the ability to, how do you protect individual privacy and all that. So when you bring all these together, this is a sector that will continue to grow. The current market in terms of size in cybersecurity tools and vendors may be around $300-400 million as of last year. but it's bound to be a $1 trillion market in terms of service and technology providers, because the penetration of security technologies for the cloud, assume 30% penetration. If today that market is 100 million, imagine when it's 5 times big, that's how you correlate and make it into $1 trillion market opportunity.
And you mentioned regulated industries too, like banks and such, they have to do these things. And the regulators, of course, are always a little bit behind to set up the regulations, but what about non-regulated, family offices, other corporates that really don't have oversight from the good old government?
Yeah, well,
like
family offices.
Are they being attacked as well, like in a larger way? Yeah.
Big time. And the same way you get called, I get called by many large family offices that are investors in our fund and says, I know you don't do these, but is there anybody that can help me with these? So a family office owns a school, and the school is about to open and registration will be on Monday. On Friday afternoon, they get a ransomware attack, the systems are shut down. What do I do?
Yikes.
Pay ransomware? No. Or yes, and then eventually who's going to respond, right? They're really good at doing it Friday afternoon or right before the holidays. And then how do you do rapid response? And not only how do you solve the problem with audit, pre-audits, and code, but the ongoing monitoring to be able to do that is key.
I find sometimes not necessarily the smaller firms, but when they're regulated, they follow the guidelines so closely that they forget they're actually running a business.
Correct.
You know, and a lot of this stuff you should be doing to secure your people and your data because you're running a business. You know, you could have someone said an attachment which is completely blank to the wrong person, and if an editor of a magazine picks it up and says you've had a data breach, it doesn't matter what the content is, you've had a data breach, your reputation's damaged. Right, and you have to inform the regulators, and the SEC now getting hotter on it. You have to report everything, pretty much.
Yeah.
And when it comes to Web3, we're still pulling teeth to convince people to get a penetration test because there is no GDPR, there is no PCI compliance, there is no anything. And it's sad but true that it's PCI regulation and GDPR and so on and so forth that drives people to pay simple trust to security to say, let's get a regular penetration test on our API keys, on our mobile apps, on our websites. Let's have a chief security officer at our company. Some of these fundamentals, I think, in your worlds have been so established and fundamental and a no questions asked. Whereas in Web3, it's nascent. It's a brand new space, and you have companies that have raised beyond $100 million with billions flowing through their smart contracts.
And it may or may not be in Silicon Valley Bank, yeah.
And they literally don't have a chief security officer. They point at the CTO. And we don't even make money giving this advice. We are just the auditors and the pen testers, the ethical hackers. And we find that they don't all use corporate computers. They don't monitor where the data is flowing. The things that I think that you guys think is like completely standard in crypto is very much not. And I'm not sure regulation will even solve that in this case. It's very global.
It's interesting. I think that's a generational thing as well, because a lot of the original startup crypto firms, so we do a lot of work with ARC Securities, who obviously invest in the space. Okay. So then we're working with their startups.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys, it's the first time they've run a business, right? But they're super smart.
Yeah.
But when it comes to technology and actually the devices they're using, they're not super smart.
Nope.
They're like, well, we've got Gmail accounts. Why do we need a corporate domain?
Yeah.
You know, and you talk about privacy. They don't have.
We have corporate email, but it just goes to Gmail, yeah. That's about,
Yeah.
Yeah, and with the help of ChatGPT, now the phishing attacks are getting really good, because before the attackers would misspell or not correctly address you because they have the ability to read all your emails and say, hey, and you now find a composition of an email which really is going to look into compromise and try to take your identity to be able to do, typical things, say transfer money here or do the following thing. So that's the impact of ChatGPT and AI being used by the adversaries. They're getting better at it, and the frequency, they don't have to have people behind that.
It's a great point.
They just basically,
maybe
you buy it as a
grammar's better
service,
as well.
and you can launch 3,000 attacks depending on how much bandwidth and money you want to be able to pay.
And in any language, so phishing attacks
Bingo.
just got way more sophisticated.
It's interesting because that specific example, and we've got smishing as well, right?
Oh yeah, effectively.
The people who provide the phishing training and the phishing testing, and we do some of it ourselves with some of our bigger clients. It's so behind the technology. You're still saying, oh, we'll do quarterly tests and training. There's only one company I can think of that's sort of turned it into gamification.
Bingo.
So it tracks your emails every day that are coming in, your text messages, your WhatsApps and everything, and then it tests you randomly throughout the day based on the text that's coming in.
I'm getting a lot of those tests, man. I don't know what's been happening. Yeah.
Have you registered for the free barbecue yet?
Not yet. Ooh. Yeah.
Those are free drinks, but yeah.
You know, a simple word of advice is activate the human firewall. Let's repeat what we're saying. Activate the human firewall. Is your point. We are the weakest link. So if we know that you are bound to be attacked, you become the filter in defense, but it takes time to do simulations, education, and cybersecurity is not the problem of the CISO, it's not a problem of the CTO, it's a business problem. And even in small companies or big companies, the biggest, I would say, potential risk, existential risk for companies that are trying to become digital will be a cyber attack, a breach where they're going to have to notify their customers or their suppliers that they've been compromised. And despite the fact that they can spin out how they're going to recover, that's why you're going to see increased attention being paid of it. And you know, regulation is one thing, to your point, but you know, if you're going to become a digital business, you're going to have to invest in these.
Yeah. Alberto, perfect. Because you mentioned earlier about the family office with a hospital, and we have attacks. So, you know, Dillinger, why do you rob banks? That's where the money is. But the banks probably have pretty good security, but the hospital doesn't, or the school that the family office owns. But the family office does. So if they have a link, oh, okay, you know, we wouldn't expect a hospital or a school to have $1 billion behind it, but a family might. So if you get the ransom, my question to each of you is, do you pay it? Have you seen people pay it and it actually works? Or is it just
82%,
do it again and again and again?
82% of people pay the fine.
And?
Only 4% of them recover their data.
Okay.
That's
very sad.
I
If
checked
anybody
that this
takes
morning.
anything from this, it's...
You should never pay, because once you pay, they're just going to do it again.
Yep. They
You
come
should
back.
have systems that protect you from a ransomware attack,
Yeah.
which is quite easy to do.
And bottom line, don't try to do it yourself. Managed security services exist today to fill that gap, and try to get somebody you trust that will bundle all the expertise and have you continuously monitor and get the periodic audits to help you do that. Because we also a small business. We have one person in IT, but most of our security is being delivered as a service by one of our companies, because we decided to invest in a managed security service, because we said the ones that are out there are too expensive, so we can aggregate with best-in-class tools to be able to do that. But in general, try to work with a managed service that can deliver security for you.
We actually find it super important to just tell early stage founders to allocate proper cybersecurity budgets in Web3.
Something, yeah.
And they mostly have thought about auditing. They've not thought about pen testing. They've not thought about paying, hiring somebody in-house for maybe even being a lead of security. So we're just trying to tell them, hey, you're raising your first $2 million. What percentage are you going to put towards security? Think about that. When are you going to bring on somebody that thinks about security for your company? You know, who's thinking about your office? The physical security, the InfoSec, OPSEC, there's so many different factors. And at least in our industry, we just really feel we're preaching 101 to everybody.
Just missionary work, Just
the real basics. Like, who is allowed inside your physical office? Have you thought about that process? Are IDs being checked? Do you have security? Is there cameras? Like, how often do you have phishing training? Are you buying, it's usually the new employee at a crypto exchange that gets phished almost every time. It's an exchange, they got hacked. They didn't get hacked because of a critical vulnerability in code. They got hacked because a new employee wasn't trained and clicked the email, got phished. And they literally don't have regular monthly or bi-monthly or bi-quarterly trainings in phishing, non-existent, truly. And we are looking for people like you to care about Web3 enough to even do it. The problem also is the Palo Altos and the big Silicon Valley firms have solutions, for example, finding data leaks in cloud services. Super normal to pay for this service for a Fortune 500. In Web3, there's not even a company selling this solution.
Yeah.
No one from Silicon
Alberto,
Valley.
you hear that?
Palo Alto does not have a division to sell finding data leaks and cloud services for Web3. And the Coinbases and the Krakens and the big exchanges, most of them are not using a service for this. And they're not even being sold. So there's room for someone to build clones of Palo Alto products and target Web3 right now, and then get acquired by Palo Alto, which is the route, that is how the game is played. Alberto knows this better than I. It's a very M&A heavy ecosystem.
Maybe we should build it.
I'm building one. It's called Mamoru.ai. Real-time on-chain security, because no one's doing it using AI, security, and blockchain. And we figured instead of investing in other companies, we'll literally just build this ourselves starting in January, pre-GPT, and then GPT came out, and it's really accelerating our development. So now we're actually, just as a team, enjoying using everything AI can offer to build a company from scratch. And that's fun. We're having fun, genuinely. I'm playing on Midjourney, designing stuff myself. I'm doing stuff myself, using some of the no-code tools, and I'm having a lot of fun. I haven't been this excited since the birth of Bitcoin.
I was thought you were going to say the birth of your child, but okay.
That was also up there. It was pretty cool.
Sorry, TMI?
I had three kids. It was okay, but Bitcoin, let me tell you, fucking Bitcoin.
Was that the middle one?
So as you were saying that, I think some of it has to be like top down too from the investors, because we did an event at Canada House with Ontario teachers, their heads of diligence did a talk, and they said, we'd have a smaller hedge fund with a couple 10, 50 million or something like that, and they really didn't have somebody there, maybe a CTO or somebody to do, or COO. Sometimes they chintz on that because they have the PMs, and they got somebody in mid-back office, and they got sales and stuff, but they really don't have this key person. They said, listen, we're gonna give you money, but we can't give you money as you are. You have to hire this person, this type of person. We actually maybe have someone in mind. And we'll pay you a bit more money.
I'm hoping it was me, because we do a lot of work with them.
Yeah. So we're going to give you a bit more. We're going to take the money. We're going to get the money later, like in the fee reductions or whatever later. But we're going to let you do this, and then they'll do it or they won't. But usually they said they would, because if you're a main investor with $200 billion, that tells you to. It's good. And the question from the audience was like, well, why would you do this? Like, it's a 50 million, just wait until they're 500 and then you'll have everything. And they go, well, really, realistically, they won't. Because now they're at 500 million. And now, hey, you're not, you're going to tell us what to do? Hey, we're getting big now, guys, or 3 billion or whatever. So, if the investors, like the Albertos of the world, have a solution and also say, hey, you know what? You guys got to have a security officer here. Otherwise, we can't invest. Is that something that how is that in your diligence on a company? Are you, with their friend and say, hey, listen, you got to do it, man. And he's got a product too, by the way.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you need to trade off. Are you going to bring an engineer to build your product, or a salesperson, or a chief security officer? You can rent one of those. The issue is when we diligence the code. We look at, many people use open source and they think, oh, it's great. We do source code scanning. We identify vulnerabilities immediately. It's not like we're not going to invest. This is the things we need to do in the first 90 days. Then we also do security assessments in the infrastructure. Do they have all the proper, firewalls and two-factor authentication, et cetera? We also
This is all stuff most VCs don't do, mind you.
We do
and I'm
that.
glad that you do it. We do this in Web3.
You know why I do it? Because before being a VC, I ran 3 cybersecurity companies, and the last one got acquired by Oracle.
Yeah.
And Oracle brought in an army of people, and they did the open source scan, they did the security assessment, they did the IP patent infringement, they did all those things, and we said, okay, we're going to build an institutional platform. We need to use it as our own way of trying to make sure that we manage we understand we're not only acquiring the assets, but we're also acquiring the liabilities, and having a good understanding of what it is and how to fix it. And instead of saying, hire somebody, first bring the experts to help you do that. If you need somebody part-time, like in many startups, when they're the very beginning, they do a part-time CFO. You can have a part-time security officer. So it's not like, because I've been a founder, I bootstrapped my company, and it says, you need to hire a chief security officer. Say, wait a minute, I'm just trying to build a product. So it's always the mindset and the trade-offs you need to make in order to enable your business, to create a product market fit. Are you in the go-to-market and expansion? So it's trade-offs. But the good news is people are there to help you, and you don't have to make the investment. They get to a point and you have a critical mass where it's justifiable for you to do that.
The problem is if you're talking about 50 million AUM, for example, you're not going to spend 250 grand a year on a salary.
You won't. You won't. Yeah, exactly.
And we could come in for like 2 hours a month and do the job. You just don't need that.
Bingo.
And that's typically what we're asking of our early stage team. We're saying, all right, I get it. You want to hire more engineers, you want to move your product forward. Can you at least rent someone for security? Can you invite a contractor to come in and clean up shop? And we'll facilitate it if we're going to invest. And we do the exact same thing when we do diligence in Web3, but I imagine we're pulling way more teeth than you are.
The scary part is also a lot of our identities have been compromised. They're being sold in the deep web and the dark web. And the best way, they don't even need to have a breach. You had an email in LinkedIn or in Vivo or whatever. And basically, those are already stored, and people sell those. And if not, they buy bulks of these, and they start using AI and machine learning to be able to try against your email or whatever, and eventually they get in. And so that whole world of deep web and dark web and social media allows them to be more targeted in terms of attacks. So it's not just the breach, it's the fact that there's 10 years of data breach history that is accumulated in big data lakes they are being actively sold in the deep web and the dark web. Credit card record is $30. A medical record is like $100 because it contains more details. A simple, email is less than that.
It's one of those things, again, I was saying about it being continuous. You can't do that as a point in time because the next day might have had the breach.
Yep.
I use a tool called Jumbo on my phone. I don't know if you've heard of that.
What's that now?
That's a breach exposure monitoring. So it checks your corporate personal address the whole time in the dark web to see if you've had a data leak. And you can put your children's email addresses in and stuff.
We have a company that monitors not only individuals, their families, their kids, their assets. We have foundations that are, before they invest in NGOs and wherever in the world, they do go through a scan of deep web, dark web to see if they have been compromised, or if the principals have a dark background, because you can also find that way by understanding the association and the websites that they visit, and you actually be able to deduct and create a risk score by individual, and also try to monitor the social activity in social networks to be able to do that. This is called brand monitoring, VIP protection. And it's something that needs to be that is done continuously, not by people, but
digital reputation monitoring.
That's right.
Checking out friends and fiancés and all that. Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
I have a different story, not being said, but
I have time. We got till 7.
Actually, this is true.
Okay.
You said this is a very well-known retailer that delivers stuff to your door in trucks almost every day. So most of their support people, they go to support centers and they will take everything off. You cannot take any confidential information. Overnight, over the pandemic, they were sent with Chromebooks. And to your point, they were the only ones supposed to use it. And so they left it there. I'm going to get a cup of coffee. I'm going to go to the restroom. The kids get in and they look and saying, where does Beyonce live? What does she order? Where are the addresses? All of a sudden, complete PII breach. And the others didn't find out, but they said, we are in huge breach. How do we protect? And there's technologies that now allow you to understand how you interact with the device, not necessarily to factor authentication. Those are even beyond, because you can be using it there. The way you press, how do you touch your screens and do that, they can tell that you're not the right person, and it stops the application and terminates it. Real story.
It's education, as you said. We had one scenario where one of our clients, I was on a conference call with him at the time. He was trying to get his son out of the room because he kept coming into the room when we were on this conference call. And he was presenting. So he's like, look, just take my phone. He gave him the phone. And then the kid had been downloading games and playing on it, which had got into his system and then was sending emails out to all of his contacts. So it wasn't like a hack or breach or anything, but it was using it to send random emails, which obviously damaged his reputation.
Correct.
And simply because it was a corporate device, it was unlocked, gave it to his son.
And the games fished.
He
The
downloaded
game's like
a
Trojan
phone
horse
game.
sort of thing, eh?
I
Yeah.
think it had an ad on the game. Click here to get extra gold coins.
The
He
malware
clicked it.
came in.
Malware came in. It set up a forwarding rule on his email, so every email he sent got sent to a Gmail account.
Yep.
Yeah. Luckily, we had an alert system set up, so if anyone sets a forwarding rule in their email, we get an alert. Because when Office 365 first came out for email, there was loads of malware attacks that did hidden links that set up email forwarders to hackers' Gmail,
Wow.
so they could masquerade and stuff.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Well, as long as this Zoom call wasn't about cybersecurity, then I guess it could have been worse, eh?
Yeah, in our world with crypto and cybersecurity, things get dark rather quick. When someone is ransomwaring you with cryptocurrencies and they know where you live and they know where your wife lives and your kids live, and a lot of those messages, and I'm sure this is common maybe in other verticals as well, but specifically in crypto, things get rather dark and violent rather fast, and we're not an instant response team, and we don't want to be in that business.
Yep.
We partner with several companies that want to do that, but with our brand reputation, I do get calls still at 3 in the morning, and they're like, what should I do? Should I lock my doors? They know where my wife is. And I'm like, you should definitely lock your doors, which is common sense.
Lock your doors anyways,
but
man. Like, we're not in Sudbury, Ontario here.
I don't know, bro. We gotta take a couple steps back. You gotta hire an instant response team. And on that note, I tell people, yeah, you don't have a CISO, but you need to engage with an instant response team when you're running a crypto company, and just have them have the contract signed with your lawyers and their lawyers, so that if and when something happens, at least they can help you. Every time I've sent a company to the instant response team, they're wasting like a day or two signing documents just to engage with each other.
Yeah, get a retainer going, yeah.
And meanwhile, he's getting messages saying, I know where your children sleep, we're coming for you. This is your wife's middle name. And you're like, you don't know if it's real.
We've been watching
Are they
your-
actually outside, or are they just like scraping data and they've gathered enough stuff to shake you? You don't know. Like, are they actually outside with a gun, or am I just being texted from someone in North Korea in a building full of hackers, which exists? There's entire buildings of people being paid to go for you.
It's also testing those incident response.
Yeah.
Because we've got clients we've taken on and they've had an incident, and there's been a change in COO or something, and they didn't even realize they had a contract with an incident response company. So what we do often is we go in with an envelope and we just leave it in the boardroom when we're doing risk committee meetings, and we go, there's a scenario. And it'll be like, CEO got run over this morning. So it's like key man risk scenarios that you do.
Yeah.
So it's not just cyber, it's also about the business side.
It's operational.
Web3 needs you.
Yeah.
We'll talk after.
I need your help.
Another simple word of advice, there's something called cyber insurance, okay?
I was just going to bring that up. Thank you, Alberto.
Yeah,
You're amazing.
and, sorry. But, your policies for errors and omissions, directors, whatever you have in protecting your business, buy that clause that says cyber insurance. Because at a minimum, it will pay for your incident response. You'll have a lawyer already associated with it, because the insurance companies do have those contracts with those attorneys, which are the breach coaches. This is what
I
it's
think
called.
now, though, they've changed it so that it only covers the legal costs.
Correct. But
not the actual response.
depending
Not
of which policy, you need to read the fine print, and some of them, they only cover the legal costs. Others will give you the instant response, and that's where it stops. So it depends. It could be a very expensive policy, or it's something that could actually help you react. So cyber insurance is available for any size of business.
Hartej, you audit those legal contracts and make sure that they're up to snuff? Is that one of your audits?
We're always happy to audit smart contracts and code. We're built for it. Bring it on.
Correct.
Well, there's so many things that so many places going, everything's going, like you say, the dark web, there's all this information out there. Tell me how positive and negative on me. How bad can this get? Or are there actually really good tools coming out and solutions that can alleviate a lot of these problems that are coming up? Because, back in the day, you leave your wallet on the bus and someone gives it to you maybe. But now it's like, there's all these things that you don't even know that you're getting robbed or about to get robbed. So how positive and negative are you on the future? Hartej,
Like I said with the data, finding leaks in data in cloud services, right? It comes down to incentive. The Silicon Valley companies are selling a solution to scrape the dark web and to find data leaks, and they're selling it to Web 2.
VCs, I tell you, yeah.
Yeah, but they're selling it to Web 2 companies, right? And
Yeah.
so Web 3 companies have the same problem, but they're not being sold the software, and they don't have the software. They may not even have the budget for this. I know one company in Web 3 that has just launched a solution to scrape the dark web all the time, targeting Web 3 companies. They can't get anyone to pay them. They have like 4 customers, and it's just tough. Like, is it a problem? Yes. How do we solve it? It's a bit of a problem still. Do I think technologically have we made massive strides to constantly scrape the dark webs and to protect you? Yeah, the technology is there. Who's going to pay for it? How are we going to, how's everyone going to have it? That part's not solved.
You need to go to more conferences. George?
It comes down to education again. You know, people aren't buying it because they don't realize they need it, I think. And people seem to wait until it's happened.
Yeah, they always wait till after they got
And then
breached
it's too
once.
late.
Yeah, Dan.
We had a client that's, well, a client now, but they lost 3.4 billion of AUM.
What?
Because of
With the B?
billion?
yeah, they had drawdowns.
Yeah.
So it's reputational
billion.
damage.
Okay, okay, yeah.
They informed the investors and the regulator, it's a UK PE firm.
Holy moly.
And the investor pulled out.
Yeah.
You know, they went from 7.2 to 4 point something, which they've got back now. It's taken 18 months to build the reputation back. And one of the investors actually came back in.
It's a fast turnaround.
But we had to prove that actually the breach occurred because the bank didn't follow their guidelines for checking the payment transaction. But it took time to do that. And the insurance company wouldn't pay us for the incident response, so the manager had to pay us.
Yeah.
And then because it was a long-term client, we said, okay, look, we'll knock 50% off.
Correct.
To prove it's not going to happen again if you follow our instructions and test the systems you've got, and don't ask your technology guys to do stupid things like open your printer to the internet so you can print your documents from home, which is what happened.
That's true. Really? Yeah.
The hackers got into the printer, they printed an information page, they used that to work out a password because someone had printed it on a piece of paper. They pretended to be the law firm and changed the bank account details for the transaction.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's crazy.
I'm so lucky at home, I don't even know how to put my printer on the Wi-Fi, so I just have to plug it in, so I'm safe from that.
Just don't use a printer, you don't need them anymore.
Yeah.
I'm 50-something, I feel like I'm 70-something sometimes.
Exactly.
But I think to your point, the question is things are changing quite rapidly. They always do in technology. We're not worried about servers anymore and firewalls and office locations. It's about the data. It's about analysis of what the people are doing, and it's about education. And a lot of it is about using good products, some of which don't exist yet, to do that continuous monitoring with exception alerts.
Yeah.
And people don't necessarily have 1,200 people sat in a call center anymore looking at logs for random exceptions. We're using AI and machine learning to work out what those exception alerts are.
Well, Alberto, George has given you the last 63 seconds.
Okay. You know, I think we should always look at cybersecurity as an enabling technology rather than something that is so esoteric and we need to defend just because we have to do it. I think cybersecurity is a key enabler for the digital transformation of business. We're living a better life because even with the pandemic, we interact, collaborate on a global basis, can run businesses in a highly distributed manner. You know, healthcare is getting better because automation and all these devices and robotic procedures are done. Has there need to be cybersecurity? Yeah, but look at it as an enabling technology, not as something that is detractor. We need to have a mindset of having to build in security in everything we do and don't think as an afterthought. So greater cybersecurity would enable economic prosperity, guarantee individual privacy, and you know, it's all about protecting our digital future.
Together. Thank you for being here in this room. Thank you to my panel. You know, let's all go to the bar and we'll split the bill.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Good job, Mario.